Hey Mo,
Hey Ricky, how you doing up there at Martha's Vineyard?
and I'm doing great. The doctor is in. The doctor is in at Martha's Vineyard. I wish I could show you the beach, but I can't. So we're in this really cool church called the Old Whaling Church. And when I started talking about it, because I was trying to find a venue here, like you're in the Old Whaling Church. Oh my gosh, it's this beautiful church with these huge pillars. It's like everything's small here. This is a big church.
Wow.
So our plan was to reach out to the people who are here vacationing and hanging out and live here and bring them on the show live. But guess what? Well, last week they had a huge COVID outbreak and a lot of people didn't do well and people are sick and they're very wary. I've been wearing my mask pretty much, everywhere you go. So, but I was able to sort of grab some beautiful women to come hang out with me. Meantime, as we were doing this, we called our friend Robin to help us out in case we couldn't get people here. So now we have this great show to talk about living your best life.
I love it. Yeah. And it's a great topic and it's so important because we don't spend enough time investing time in rest, in play, in imagination, in joy, and all those things. Like we just kind of, especially as Black women, sometimes we take it as a badge of honor. I know at my family, I had 3 jobs and I do this and I do that and I'm this, I'm on the pastor's aide. The more things we do, the bigger that cake gets. But sometimes it's okay, and most times and all the time it's okay to prioritize your well-being. And so you being up there is powerful, and we want to hear from people who are up there. We're going to talk to Robin about self-care and really about what living your best life looks like, especially in the face of COVID, because just like you said, right, plans had to change. Everybody's going through this shift right now. People have planned cruises and vacations, and they've planned their cancer surgeries, and they planned everything. And life made us all shift really significantly. So how do we live our best lives? Who's with you today?
So I have these lovely women, and Danielle just came in. So first we have Dr. Brenda, and she's an internal medicine doctor in Harlem. And she has a great story of what she does at Martha's Vineyard. And we have our friend Janice, who I met on the beach this morning at the polar bear swim. She's going to talk to you about that. And then we have our friend Danielle, who literally just emailed me about 20 minutes ago and said, I'm coming. So we're so glad to have her. She's a survivor. So, and then we have our friend Robin. So we're going to try to do something different today and have a live audience and get everybody to talk, okay, about their best life.
All righty. Well, where should we start?
Why don't we start with Robin?
Okay.
So yeah. Go ahead. Can you tell your story real quick? We know.
Absolutely. I was diagnosed in 2008 with stage 4 triple negative breast cancer and was given a very dismal diagnosis and prognosis. And so as I come today to talk about living your best life, when you're going through treatment and somebody gives you a devastating diagnosis, you have a choice. You can go home and prepare to die, or you can go home and start living. And so I think that as I look at survivorship, what has helped me was that I made a decision to go home and start living, to find out what my best life was. Because as Black women, and I see in a lot of women, that they don't know what their best life is. They're so busy taking care of everyone else in their life. They never focus on what is their best life. What are they doing to satisfy their needs, and how they couldn't even tell you what their best life was. And so one of the suggestions I have about living your best life is, first of all, coming out of your comfort zone, trying different things. I've recently started working with a group that does knitting, and come to find out that knitting addresses depression and anxiety. And it was amazing. I'm trying to bring that to cancer survivors, or those sitting in getting chemo treatment, because it's very hard to be depressed and knit, and anytime you can do something with your hands and produce something, it's a very rewarding experience. So today we're going to explore a lot of things around self-help, but I got some key points that might help. Is, first of all, you got to evaluate where you are as far as your self-help. Break it down into categories, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, socially. Figure out where you are from 1 to 10. And that gives you an opportunity to make a plan in each one of those areas, because for whatever need that we have, part of that need is satisfied by us, and part of that need sometimes has to be satisfied by people outside of us. So, for example, spiritually, I can pray, or I can meditate, or I can burn herbs, or do whatever my spiritual thing is. But sometimes I need other people to pray with me. I need to go to some place to commune with other people who are surrounding me with love. So look at what your needs are, make a list of those needs, and then you can start to say, hey, you know what? I haven't been paying too much attention to maybe my spiritual need or my social need. You could be so going to treatment and going for aftercare and not feeling good. First thing falls off is your social need. You still have a need to be social. You still have to have people around you, surrounding you with good vibes and love. So I won't take a lot of time, but I'll come back with some more points.
I love that. Yep,
love
and we're gonna circle back with you about that and how to modify some of those things during COVID, or to prioritize some of those things during COVID. So we're gonna circle back with you on that for sure.
Make a list at the end. So interesting that you brought up the whole caregiver thing, and you need stuff from other people. So our friend Janice over here, she actually was a caregiver for 2 patients. And you want to tell your story a little bit about your friends? And she also said that she took them on their faith walk.
Yes. My auntie, she started with her one breast removal, and I started my journey with her, taking her back and forth for her treatments and being there for her and trying to understand why, because that was auntie. And that's part of what I guess I need to know a little bit more about, because I am walking through this now with a young lady. But my auntie, I walked that journey with her, and for 15 years, it had cleared up. But when it came back, it hit with a fury. And of course, she was much older then. So, I just couldn't understand it. What else can I do to help? What more can I do? And she just kept, just pray and be there for me. Hold me strong, and I'll be strong for you. And my best friend, while auntie was getting sick, I worked with her for about 10 years. It had left and came back in the fury. So right now, I'm going through it now with one of my best friends. And hers left 11 years ago, and it's come back. And I keep going through this. God, what else can I do to help?
Yeah.
So
you come up here to find peace, to
I
find
come up
God.
here for peace and quiet and calm. And like I've been calling in, checking all of the time, but I'm here and I'm so grateful for this place. It's so spiritual. It's like another world. When you get off that ferry and you get on this island and you just feel so free. And I was trying to get my girlfriend to come, but she said she really didn't feel like it. So I continue to pray for her. But this island helps. And if we could get more of that on this island to teach people, because it's a lot of breast cancer survivors on this island. And if we could get more people working with ones who have it, so that we'll know exactly what to do, what to expect, and how to handle it and be strong in our faith.
Great. Can you talk about where I met you this morning?
Yes, I come up here every year for 25 years. I get in the water. I'm a polar bear. You're a polar bear now, but we exercise at 7:30 every morning. I do Monday through Saturday. I go to church on Sunday, but they're on their Sundays. But we exercise because exercise is something that makes your body stronger, your mind stronger. When you get in that water, it's like a healing process. You really feel free. And so that's why I'm one of the instructors. I started teaching the class and I do most of the stretching and try to get people to understand that the stronger your body is, your muscles, your tissues, your vein, your blood, eating healthy and exercising, the better chances is for you for living longer.
Great. It's an amazing thing to see. We'll post some pictures of it. But to see this group of Black women, there are about 60 women out there this morning.
75.
75 in the water, in a circle,
Wow.
working out, man, working out, working out, working out. So I want to introduce you to our friend Danielle, who we're just meeting. Danielle, can you look in the camera? Can you
Hi,
see?
everyone. How are you?
Good.
Can you hear me well? First, I must say that I have always affirmed with my kids that we should always be at the right place, at the right time, engaged in the right activities. And I am truly grateful to God because I just got off the ferry at 4:30
Wow.
and I made it back for this meeting. I got the flyer from a breast cancer survivor who is called Less Than Two Breasts on Instagram. I met her on Instagram and she happened to visit Martha's Vineyard this year. I think it's something that she does yearly, and she reached out and she said, "You're living on the vineyard. I'll be there. I'd love to meet you." So I met her, and that's how I got the flyer from her about 2 weeks ago. And I was so happy because on Wednesdays, it's my day off from work. If I had to be at work, I would be crying right now because I'm really feeling the energy as I parked up and I got in here. And I didn't read the flyer correctly. I thought when I read it, it meant if you wanted to be live, like interactive, then email. I started driving towards Oak Bluff and I'm like, wait a minute, there's no address. So I'm driving and I'm texting and sending the email, and luckily she was able to respond it, and here I am.
Oh.
So I do believe that this is where God had intended for me to be
Yes.
this evening. I was hoping my mom was going to join us because she's a survivor. She got her first COVID shot yesterday and she's just not feeling well. So here I am, a 2 times breast cancer survivor, only 38 years old. I was first diagnosed at 33 years old back when I was living in Florida, South Florida. I was diagnosed with a stage 3 breast cancer. I think it was like hormone positive, H2, or I don't remember the
HR
actual
positive,
right. So I did 16 rounds of chemotherapy. Then I did a bilateral mastectomy, not a bilateral, I'm sorry. I did a lumpectomy, and then I also did radiation. 3 years later, well, I heard Best Life. I heard someone talked about Best Life. When it happened 3 years ago, when I was 33 years old, I just wanted to get over it. I had no knowledge of it, even though my mother was a breast cancer and an ovarian cancer survivor at the time. So I just wanted to get over it. When I felt the lump in my breast, I didn't go to do a mammogram or something, but I remember just relaxing one Saturday morning, and it would have been like the Holy Spirit just put my hand right there. And I touched the lump and I was like, wait a minute, is that what I think it is? Knowing that my mom had went through something like that. I went out the night and I partied like it was my last night on earth, because if I was gonna die, I was gonna die very happy. So I did that, and then I went to my mom the Monday and I told her of the findings, and she was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Da, 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 da. And she's like, what if you have to lose the breast? And I'm like, wait a minute, lady. You rather have your daughter dead with 2 breasts or alive with no breasts at all? You talk to me, because you're a survivor and I got my strength from you. So we got to the hospital, did the necessary checks, and that's how I got into the hospital and got my treatments. Then here it came 3 years later, the same breast, just a different location. This time I got educated and I did not take what the doctors told me. I told them what I wanted. Take those tits right now. Get me in the OR and take those boobs out. I'm a mom of 3 amazing kids. They have already gotten their milk. What am I gonna do with these? First of all, they're not cute anymore, so they could go. So that's what I said. I got in and I did my bilateral mastectomy, and I've been living without my breast since 2019. That's when it had reoccurred at 36 years old. And I was caring for one of the longest survivors who died last year, who originated from Martha's Vineyard and reside in Florida. I was his caregiver, and that's how I'm here on the Vineyard. He relocated here, and I got the opportunity of coming to Martha's Vineyard, and I would agree with everything that you said. It's healing, the waters, therapeutic, the people, the nature. It's just everything that I would have really wanted. I think when I came here in November, I think first in September, I think everything just reset somehow in my mind, in my body, in my health. I just started feeling a whole different being. I would walk. I'm not walking as much. You could tell, but I gained so many weight now, caught up in working and all of that. But I do agree in living the best life. And what is my best life? My best life is being here on the Vineyard, enjoying this beautiful island, the beautiful spirits, the nature, and just giving God thanks and sharing my story using my platform in every way that I possibly can. When I was first diagnosed, I said I would not keep my mouth closed. I went live every Wednesday when I would go for chemotherapy, and I would talk about my story. And I was blessed to know how many females confided in me that I too felt a lump, but I was scared. And through me sharing my story, they went and got their mammograms. They started taking much better care of themselves. And it's just been a positive energy going forward. So I do believe that knowledge is power, and if you close your mouth, you can't get fed. So I opened my mouth so I could get filling, and that others could also benefit from me. So I won't take up too much time because we'll still be here, okay? But it's a blessing to be here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Do you
Yeah,
have
it's a blessing to hear from you.
My BRCA testing, and when it first came back, the doctor was like, not at all. No positive mutation. No, you got to check it again, because there's the mom who was diagnosed 10 years ago, and now the daughter 10 years later, no, she has the gene. And it came back to a positive uncertain mutation. It was not confirmed. However, my sister, who is the baby one, she has a confirmed BRCA of breast and ovarian. So you know, she just birthed her second child and is getting ready to do complete hysterectomy and bilateral, just as a preventative measure.
Wow, bless her.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so important that you asked again for that testing, because sometimes we do that. I got tested initially back in 2014, and there's so many more genes now, and we're learning that there's more mutations along those genes. And so just because you got tested once and you were negative doesn't mean that you don't meet the criteria for what they call update testing. So if people are watching and you have strong family history and you only got tested for BRCA 1 and 2 way back when, there's more genes. There are more genes that are implicated with breast cancer and ovarian and other cancers. And so it's important for you to talk to your doctors about that and to circle back with it, and don't just let it go, say, oh, I'm BRCA negative and that's it, because there's a lot more that we know now. And there's more that we know about Black women, especially, and about the genes that cause breast cancer in us. So it's important conversation for sure. Ricky, who else you got over there with you?
Yeah, I'm here. We got Dr. Brenda, but I want to say one more thing too. You know, we know that when you talked about your surgery, that Black women have a 39% higher risk of recurrence.
Yeah.
And we don't know why. And we're gonna actually have a show about surgery in a couple of weeks, but I always get concerned when people don't get a mastectomy the first time around because, you know, the data that we have about, you know, not need a lumpectomy is okay, is for white women. And we don't really have any data for Black women and the impact on us. So you wonder if you had had a mastectomy the first time, what would have happened? You know, that's the case with so many of us. So anyway, Dr. Brenda from Harlem, and she spends the summer here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I live in Harlem. I'm a sort of semi-retired physician now, but my first interaction with a patient when I finished med school was when I was starting my practice, because right when I finished internships and residency, I wanted my own practice. So I started my own practice and, you know, trying to scramble and get patients, referrals and that sort of thing. Meals on Wheels called me and they said, would I please do a home visit on a lady that they deliver meals to who fell and hurt herself, but she hasn't seen a doctor and we don't know, she might have broken her shoulder or her arm. So I pack up my bag, first experience doing this home visit stuff.
How old were you?
Gosh, 30 or something.
Young. Mhm.
So I run out there. Now this is in Harlem and it wasn't the good days of Harlem. You know, it's dangerous out on the street. People knock you over your head for your bag, or if you leave it in your car, they would break in and take it. So I went to this lady's house. She looked like she was in her 70s and she was holding her arm like this. And I did as much of an exam as I could with her sitting in the chair and, you know, not really being able to ask her to do things so that I could see how she moved everything. So finally I said, please, can I look over here at your shoulder? And when I pulled the top of her dress down, there was a cancer about this big. It was like a cauliflower and it was the breast and the collarbone
Growing out of her skin.
grown out of the skin. I'd never seen that kind of thing before. There was no way that I could get her to the hospital because when the ambulance came, she refused to go. She wound up there maybe about 3 weeks later in the hospital where she was at the point where she couldn't say no. You know, they just brought her. And that was my first introduction to really on my own looking at somebody with breast cancer outside of the hospital setting. And it kind of helped me be more attuned to Black women and going over everything when I examined them from head to toe. So it always took me a long time to do an exam.
Yeah.
Ask about everything, breast exam, vaginal exams, everything. So from that, I was pretty attuned to breast cancer and trying to make sure any patients I had in practice or wherever had the best people to go to for evaluation, surgery, that kind of thing. So I probably spent more on Black women and seeing if they have a lump or anything anywhere than the regular run-of-the-mill doctors in Harlem.
You
That
said you're
taught me
seeing a
good-
lot of patients now, breast cancer now.
Now I'm kind of in a semi-retired position as a physician. I'm called a school medical inspector, and I do exams for all the teachers, principals, school aides, cafeteria workers, everybody. So if somebody wants to have permission to be out for restoration of health, or they want to retire and get disability retirement or ordinary disability retirement, I'm one of the doctors who determines what kind of retirement you can have. And doing these exams, and it's not that I may find things and tell them to see a doctor about it, you know, private doctor, but I don't really have to treat them anymore, but I have to do whatever I can to make them go and see about what they have. So in a way, it's pretty rewarding, that type of job, even though I'm sort of on my way out. of being a physician, a practicing physician.
But you're helping people live their best life and
That's
find
true.
that, right?
That's true.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Right?
Dr. Brenda, can I ask you a question? And how long ago was that first patient encounter? How many years ago was that?
About 35 to 40, somewhere 38
Wow.
years ago.
What if I
Wow.
told you I saw a patient yesterday who had the same thing?
Really?
40 years later. Like, it's not, it's not sinking in that we have options and that we have to get in tune with our bodies and that we have to be aware, because people are afraid. They're afraid of living, they're afraid of dying, they're afraid of chemo, they're afraid of surgery, they're afraid of doing nothing, and the fear paralyzes you. And we're seeing it more, and we're seeing it younger. And so it's really powerful to hear you tell this story, because it's still happening. You know, I remember being a medical student, and the first patient I saw in clinic when I was a fourth year student was 34 with 2 girls, and you could smell her cancer before we walked into the room, and it had grown through the skin, and she's got these 2 girls, and she's young. And you know, I remember being a student, and you never forget certain things that you see. And it's not to cast judgment, but it's to let people know that there are resources. You know, there are doctors who look like you. Representation matters. That you know, you can get mammograms. There's money available for these resources. There's ultrasounds. There's so much. And you know, Robin, we live here in Philly, but Philly is still number 10 when you look at the cities and the mortality, right, among African American women. Black women, we're number 10 as far as the high rates of mortality, according to the data from Susan G. Komen a couple years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
we
what
have-
I find is that there are now organizations and support groups. Get the information, you know, ask questions. Look on the websites. A lot of the websites, you don't even have to go in. They have question and answer periods. Find an advocate to brush things off with you, to go with you to appointments in case you forget to ask something, that they can ask it for you. You know, you really have to educate yourself and step up and be an advocate for yourself in order to live your best life, you know, and not be, oh, I had a pain, I didn't talk to the doctor about it. I have this pain. What can I do? What are some of the options? You know, you really just have to be proactive around your own health and demand, I need to see somebody in reference to that, and not give up.
And not hide out in your house like this woman did, who, how long had she been there, for God's sakes, with that pain, right? Not knowing what it is, and had someone from the outside who was bringing her meals, you know, she probably wouldn't have gotten attention.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well,
I mean,
I think that in our community, there's still a stigma around breast cancer. And the more that we get these stories out, the more acceptable it will be in our community.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I tell women to do all the time is keep a journal. You know, write about these experiences. That story that the doctor just talked about would help so many people. The young woman that came on before me, her story would inspire so many young girls at 34 years old. We're still not getting this information out. We're still not educating our teens and preteens. I mean, you should not have breast cancer, and that's the first time you've heard of breast cancer. And more women, they get it and say, oh my God, I never thought it would happen to me. Well, if 1 in every 3 women get breast cancer, it's gonna happen to you know, within your lifetime, you know. So we just have to do a better job of getting these amazing stories out into the public and let people hear them and see them so that they know this is something important and not to be swept under the rug. And there is help and resources out there. Every hospital, they have a social work department. A lot of the cancer hospitals now are setting up cancer centers and breast cancer centers where you can get resources and wigs and programs. But I would join a group of women because collectively you will be able to process and be creative about attending to your needs.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You
thank
know,
you,
Robin, Sorry, go
That's-
ahead, Doc.
No, I was gonna say, this is what we do. This is what we're trying to be here for. And we hear a lot of stories too, like, I want to be around women who look like me. And so that's really why we founded Touch, to be able to be a resource for Black women to help share these stories, but also help bring some science to it. Like, how can we, how can we fix it? Well, what can we change about it? And you know, we're working on that, but I really support what you said about young women. You know, we have our little HBCU interns who we adore, but our purpose is not only to teach them about breast cancer and breast health, but to help them bring these conversations to the table, to the kitchen
Absolutely.
tables of their families. You know, Mom, did you get your mammogram?
Absolutely.
So it's so important that we teach our young women and make them understand, like, you know, before they even have to deal with anything, even like clinical trials and all that stuff. So we just have to keep talking it up. And I don't know why Black people have such a hard time talking about health. And that's what this woman was an example. Like, I don't know, do you have any ideas about that
Well,
one?
I think starting off from very young, people have to be taught, know your body.
Know your body, know your normal.
Yeah, wherever it is on your body. Anytime it's different, go see about it.
Mhm.
About it. Don't keep it.
I mean,
So-
we have taught our teens to find a pimple on the side, left, right part of their face that nobody can see. You know, they're in the mirror obsessing about it. I mean, we just have to get into our young girls at a very early age to start checking their breasts.
Right, because they're doing their hair, they're doing their nails, they're getting
They
their
finding
toes
the
done.
pimples.
Right.
Let me jump in though. Let me jump in and say a couple things. One, I think historically, you know, when I look back, like my grandparents raised me, they didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have or utilize, even when they had it, they didn't utilize their health insurance the way they could have in the true preventive fashion, because
Absolutely.
you got to take a day off from work. Somebody's got to drive you to get your colonoscopy. Somebody, you got to do this. You got, there's barriers, I think,
Copay,
built into preventive care, as you well know, right?
Yeah.
the
But
copays.
and
copay.
not even, not to mention the copays. Like we were taught, you know what, don't get sick, because you know,
That's right.
right, you
Right.
do what you can to stay healthy. Here's some Robitussin, here's a hot toddy, here's some castor oil, here's some
Right.
things. But I think historically also, you can't, you know, can't talk about healthcare for people of color in this country without talking about how racism is baked into the cake of healthcare, and how when you look at even the slave ships that came over through the Middle Passage, there were doctors on those ships who were designed to keep those passengers, those slaves, alive long enough to get to the selling block.
Yeah.
Right. And so healthcare hasn't always been for us, and that has carried over generation after generation, that doctors are not necessarily the people who have our best interests at heart, unfortunately. And so it's a lot of education that we have to do, and the representation for sure definitely matters, you know. And on the subject of self breast exams, who did anybody ever teach you how to do a breast exam? You know, Dr.
Absolutely
Bennett,
not.
anybody teach you in medical school how to do a good breast exam? I didn't learn till I was a fellow in
Yeah,
my
I
breast
learned-
surgery fellowship on how to even do a good breast exam and what the normal breast felt like.
I didn't
Right.
learn in school.
I mean, you would not find a Black mother that was teaching her daughter to examine her breast,
No.
because they saw it more as sexual rather
Exactly.
than preventative medicine.
Mhm.
So let's
And they
just
call
be
it something else, right? Some other
Yes.
cutesy name, and we don't
Yes.
call it by what it is. And we, you know what I mean? Like
Right,
that's,
Mhm.
Right.
yeah.
Danielle has something to say. She's.
Well,
Yes.
there's so many things I could say based on the conversation that is being held. I remember when I did my bilateral mastectomy, my nurse that was caring for me, she said, I so wish you could go down the block and just show these women that it's okay to take the breast off. Instead, they're holding on to the very thing that is killing them. And as you said, you know, I believe as a young woman, our parents, based on how they were raised, fear does so much. I'm not seeing me. Fear does so much to it. I remember my mother didn't talk to me about your monthly cycle. I went to a church event and I
Really?
noticed a young lady was dressed in white and she had this red thing all over her the back of her dress, and someone had to walk behind her. And I went home and I was curious, and I said, Mom, this was what happened. And everyone walked out behind her. What was that? I thought it was so, at that time it was like the preaching going on, but everyone had to escort her to the church. And that's when my mom said, it's called your monthly period. And that's how she started to have a conversation. And even though my mother is a breast cancer survivor or ovarian cancer, and now battling multiple myeloma, I guess fear of having to explain these things to your children, like, is this a death sentence? How do I say this to my daughter that I'm diagnosed with cancer? Because she didn't tell us in the first start when it happened to her. And then when I got a chance to be here with her, I think I came to the States on our first day of chemo, and she still didn't educate us about it. It's me going through that process now, became educated on my own, and then had to share this. My daughter was only 6 years old at the time when we all sat down and we researched on chemotherapy. We researched on the different drugs. I remember going for chemotherapy one Wednesday, and my blood count was too low to get the chemotherapy. By the time I got home, my 15-year-old at the time, she done research what food she could cook to help my
Wow.
liver and that stuff, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think fear is one of the biggest factors that is keeping our culture from being educated and being aware. I show my scars. I have a little proof here because I just got married in June, and when I was getting my dress made, she said, you could put a little bra on. It's okay. I know you'd really, but I said, I'm okay. My husband accepts my scars, so I don't need to cover anything up. But I do agree that a little bra gives you a little different look in certain things, so it's okay. But I show my scars. I said, cancer is not a death sentence anymore. I said, early detection saves life. And if you're willing to hear, I'm willing to share, because some people are so, I don't even know what to say. They're so ignorant or arrogant. They don't want to listen. But as you were talking, persons, you're saving all this money to book their vacations to go all over the world. What about that doctor's visit to get a full body scan to know what is happening on the inside? Years ago in Jamaica, a pastor that taught us in Sunday school, I noticed he had a pimple. And I'm a busybody, if you may say. I'm always inquisitive. And I kept on paying attention to the pimple, and it kept on getting bigger. And one Sunday I'm like, Elder Mac, what is that at your nose? And he thought it was just a pimple. That was cancer growing. How do you know time to even go and check it? And that's how he died. And from ever since that I learned. And another thing that I learned too, younger days in Jamaica, the butcher in our community was diagnosed with cancer, and he died within 2 weeks. And someone says that's not the cancer that killed him. He was having so much fear and, like, what would you call it, worried feeling, instead of, I said, when the doctors told me that I was diagnosed with cancer, I said, cancer is in the breast. It's not in my heart. It's not in my soul. And I'm going to live and I'm going to be happy. So I did not wear it from. There are days, as you ask, how can I be there? And all I wanted for the most part was just knowing that someone was there. But for me, my youngest, my 3 kids were they were my caretakers. My oldest was 15 at the time. My youngest was 6 years old, and my son, I think my son was maybe 12 years old. But we all stood in our corner. There were times I felt very low. I remember one day I just felt like I wasn't giving up, but I just didn't know what to do. And my oldest came in and she got the notepad and she wrote, "This too shall pass, Mom.
Yes.
To overcome this, Mom."
Yes.
And she got me showered. She got me all dressed up, put little lip gloss on my lip. And let's change the environment.
Yes.
Change the mood. And that's really important, So again, it's so much to share, but I'll just listen and chime in as we go.
You go, girl. I knew you were from Jamaica.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
No, you are such a great spirit, because you're hitting
Absolutely.
on so many of the issues about how we hide things, how we don't talk about them, and how we talk to our kids, and how our kids just want to be part of the process, right?
Yes.
We got to come in and
Yes.
cook you liver, you know,
Yes,
like, yeah,
different things.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we need that.
Robin, how did you tell your kids you had your son?
I'm not even sure.
Mhm.
I what I did was, because the first hospital had given me a death sentence.
Yeah.
I I decided to go home and educate myself about what did I have and what were other people saying. And then I called the county medical society and asked a friend there to tell me what's the best doctor, number one doctor for breast cancer. And she gave me the doctor, and she said he doesn't take patients, but he'll do a second opinion. I said, that's all I need, you know. And the lesson in that is that don't accept what someone says. Get a second opinion. You don't have to
Yeah,
accept
Right.
right.
death penalty, and maybe even a third opinion, because I ended up getting 3 opinions, you know. But when I got my second opinion that looked a little more hopeful, I was like, okay, now I have something to work with. And I'm always amazed that had I took at face value what the first doctor had told me, I would be dead today.
Hmm.
And so nobody can determine, it's not when you die, because we're all going to die. And so I had to come to terms, we're all going to die. And how you die is not your choice. We don't have a choice in this, but you have to make a decision to live. And so the great thing about this program around living your best life, I have found that a lot of survivors didn't have a best life before breast cancer.
Exactly
Now
right.
Hello.
you
Talk
are,
about it.
you know, now you're like, okay, you have breast cancer, now live your best life. You know, it's almost impossible to do because you don't even know what it is.
It's like
And so,
self-love. You didn't love yourself before breast
No,
cancer. You didn't
yeah.
like your body before cancer. And now we say put on a pink tutu and going out there and love yourself.
absolutely,
Right. Love
And
your
absolutely.
go top-
scars.
and go topless,
Now,
right? Yeah.
one big point is that I would say a tip around living your best life, and this is a little exercise that you can practice. You got to get the toxicity and the toxic people out of your life.
Your
Mhm.
peace is
so-
not negotiable. Amen.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
people don't realize that it's non-negotiable. And so what they think is, what I mean is, well, Robin, what are you talking about? I love this person. You can continue to love that person.
From afar.
Okay. So take a piece of paper, draw an X figure in the middle, and write your name in it. And that's you. Then all around that paper, draw a circle for every friend or colleague or people you're around every day, generally, you know. And so you have family, your circle might be the guy you get a sandwich at the truck. Draw a circle for each one of those people and put their first name in it. Now, go back after you finish filling that whole paper out with circles and names. Go to each circle and ask yourself one question. Is their primary influence positive or negative? Period. Not do I love them. Not is that my best friend. Not if that's my auntie. Is their primary influence negative or positive? When I interact with them, do I leave feeling great or feeling a little down?
Right.
For those people that are just an overwhelming, and some people might be positive, but you might not like them. You know what I mean? But if they're positive,
Right.
okay, but if they're positive, put a plus in that circle. If they are negative, take a red marker and put a minus through that circle, and do it without judgment. It has nothing to do as to whether you like them or not. It's, do they make you happy? Do you smile when you get off the phone with them? You ever hang up the phone and just go, oh, God,
Sure.
glad that's over. And you almost have to get up your energy to go back to that. So you make this list. And that's going to show you real quick what's around you. Are your primary influences negative or are they positive? Okay. And then you need to weed those negative influences a little further outside of your circle.
They're cancers. They're
Yeah.
cancers. They gotta go.
Yeah.
Well, and you might not be able to get rid of them because some cancers we stuck with.
You can limit your
Wait a
time with
minute,
them.
some
Right. Limit your
cancers
time,
are
right.
medicine. You just have to perpetually
Well,
treat them and keep them on the
But we can
outside.
learn to manage them, right?
You
We
know,
can learn to live our best
we'll
lives in
manage
spite
them.
of them.
But you gotta start surrounding
Come on.
yourself with people that validate you, that
Mhm.
support you, that encourage
Give you
you,
love.
and that love you.
I love it.
Period. And I think that with our guest today, the reason she survived is she had some kids that surrounded her with that love. And they make my point exactly, because those kids ain't go to Susan Coleman or they ain't go to no program online to learn how to deal with their mother. They
Come
looked at
on.
their mother's needs and were creative and lifting her spirits and giving her something to strive for and helping her out. You know what I'm saying? And I'll tell you another hint, because I love the thing you said, oh, they gave me some liver to up my count. Well, when I was going through my chemo and of course you don't want to eat, and I had the sores in the mouth and the whole 9 yards, and I couldn't eat. And so getting anything down was a struggle. So what my husband would do is he would make that liver and onions, but he would put it in a blender and mush it up. And I could eat like an 8-ounce piece of liver and 2 or 3 spoonfuls because it was already chewed up for me. You know, you think of creative things, especially if you love somebody, you think of creative things to get back. But the one thing that you got to do is you got to be happy. You got to find your joy every single day.
Every
Find
day.
a reason to smile, find a reason to be happy. And if you ain't, like you said, you need to change up that energy. It could be
Wow.
music, dancing, knitting, crocheting,
Dancing.
whatever you need to do. Sometimes it's going on your balcony or outside and just screaming until you are no longer frustrated. Get it out and then
All
go
right.
back to doing what you got to do.
All right. Well, we're gonna do a round robin. So round robin, literally. Ha ha. Robin, we're gonna talk about the top 5 ways to live your best life now. We might end up with 10, but let's start with 5.
And I'm
Okay.
gonna put
Top
them,
5
I'm gonna put them in the comments.
Yep, I'm putting them in as we speak in no particular order. I
Okay.
heard you say change your circle. Is that one of the top 5 ways to live your best life now?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm putting that in. Number 5, change your circle. What else you got?
Robin also said, be
Self-care is
creative.
very important. Self-care.
Self-care, just loving
Alrighty.
yourself, loving yourself. Just waking up in the morning saying, I love you. Looking in the mirror saying, I love you, whoever you are, you know? Oh, Dr. Brenda's over here. She had to go take a call from a patient. Come over here so I can see you. She had to go take a call from a patient.
All right, number 4, what else we got?
Uncle Brenda.
Finding what you like to do best of all.
Yes.
Like
Mhm.
gardening, I found that late.
Great. We never talked about why you love the vineyard too. But
Yeah.
do you think it's healing too? What do you think?
All right, fine. What you like to do best of all and make time for it regularly.
Treat yourself well and surround yourself with loving care.
Treat yourself well. I love it.
Joy.
You know, my mom has a day of the week called Wilma Day. That's her name. And that's the day she goes to get her hair and nails done and nothing stops her.
All right.
Yes.
It's Wilma Day, it's
That's
Thursday,
great.
and that's the deal, right? So pick a day of the week and pick a day of the week that it's all about you.
Yes.
All about you. Nothing matters, right? Right? What about you, Danielle?
My God, I guess everybody said everything. I don't know what else to say now. To be honest, living your best life sometimes just means be still. For me, just being still.
Be still, listen, be still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be still in the nature,
Yeah.
in the movement, being still and being present.
Hmm.
I always say, take a walk.
Yeah.
You know what? I was going to say reconnect with nature in
Yeah, you
any
see
way.
God.
Yeah.
Reconnect with the whole nature, whether that's the walk, the water, the polar bear thing. Reconnect with water, nature, air, trees, flowers.
All the stuff that's bigger than us.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yes.
see God all around us. You could definitely see it on this island, and you definitely see.
All right.
That's my favorite.
Wait,
place.
now I have something that, first of all, you got to make a plan and you start small. But one thing that we don't do, ask for help.
Mm.
Don't
Ask
ask for
for
help.
help.
Ask for help. We don't ask for help.
And be very specific. People say, is there anything I can do? No. Okay, I'll talk to you later. And then you go home and you're too tired to make dinner that night
Right.
because you didn't ask. So
Yeah.
make a list, and not every friend is sincere in that, but you know which friends are and are not. And don't wait for that moment when you need it. Make a list of some things that you may need. Maybe you need something from the pharmacy or your dry cleaner or whatever. Make that list so that you can put beside it names of people can help you with these little things. And
Beautiful.
don't let things pile up, and don't try to do everything by yourself.
And it's hard for us to not ask for help. I mean, I'm actually here with my childhood friend Diane, who's also in the room. I should make her come on screen. But she knew that I would never ask for help. And she, had a group of our friends from all parts of my life, and they just started doing stuff. They didn't ask, they just started doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The carpet in my house, we cleaned the HVAC system, and she actually bought me 1,000 count Egyptian sheets to sleep on, and
Right.
like they just started doing stuff. So
Mhm.
if you have the circle around you of the friends who really love you, they'll just start doing stuff, because they know we're not, we don't want to ask for help.
Right.
Thank God for those friends though, because sometimes you have to train your friends or family
Yes.
on how to love you and how to support
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the ways that we show love and support aren't necessarily the things that we need. I have a lot of patients who are going through their journey and their family members just keep bringing comfort food, and it's fried, it's macaroni, it's lasagna, it's this, and they're trying to change their diet and change their life.
Yeah.
And maybe they just need to go for a walk, or maybe they need somebody to take the kids for a couple of hours so they can go get that massage or that Reiki, or go get that makeover, or go be still in nature. So sometimes we have to train our loved ones on how to care for us. And if we don't do it, they won't know how to show up for you. And it's a really important part of this journey, I think, is learning how to talk to your family about all these aspects, not just the surgery or the chemo or whatever, but just how to connect to each other again,
Yes. And if you have that list, you have a foundation for talking, that you can say, hey, I was writing down some of the things that I might need. Is anything on here you might be able to take for me, or that sort of thing? And that way you can have names by the stuff that you need. A lot of times we're embarrassed or afraid, and so we don't even ask, and then things piled up, then we get overwhelmed, then we get depressed, and continue to deny. And guess what? If you don't feel good, you don't feel good. Stop pretending to feel good if you don't feel good.
Right. When they say, how are you? Be honest.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And this is a big one that has been really helpful for me.
Yeah.
And you have to take this in the right way. Stop telling the trauma of your story over and over and over again. And I don't mean don't tell your story and don't inspire other people, but sometimes people will begin to tell a story about something that happened to them, and it's like it happened yesterday and not 2 years ago.
Yes.
Talk about
And
this
so
one. This is
every
true.
time they tell it, they dig a little deeper into their psychic of the trauma.
Yes.
You gotta let go of that trauma.
And look-
Robin, I'm putting this in the comments and I'm saying tap into the power of your story, not just your
The
trauma.
trauma.
And the
Exactly.
blessing of your story. I
Yes,
think we've
that's
all
right.
had a blessing come out of this
Mhm.
horrible situation, but it's a blessing in your story.
Right.
Danielle has some words too.
What I was thinking about was when my daughter said, because when it first happened the first time around, I think what happened, fear took over my family and friends. I was only 33 years old. And I remember later on, after I started recovering, my daughter said, Mom, some days I wish someone would have just called and said, hey, Lex, how you doing? How are you feeling? You're there for your mom, but how are you doing mentally? Sometimes you think you're so caught up in your own, everything that's happening that you tend to forget the persons that are around you that's really giving care. So she wasn't really directing to me, but she was thinking like other family members or friends could have checked in with her to say how
Yeah.
they could help. Like, would you like me to sit with mom while you go for a walk or see your friends? I mean, she was coming up on her 16th birthday. She didn't have that summer vacation like all the teens would have normally looked forward to. But when it happened the second time around, honey,
Gosh.
no one was afraid anymore. I mean, there was no space in the doctor's room for me to get my diagnosis. What is it that's happening again the second time? Everyone was at on, okay? We didn't do our duties the first time, but we ain't giving it no time, to
Exactly.
we're all here, we're all in, so having that circle that really understands and knows sometimes when to be there and how to make themselves avail is really important as well.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Another one is pray or worry, but don't do both.
That's right.
Faith and fear can't live in the same house.
True.
If you're gonna pray, then don't worry. If you're gonna worry, then don't pray,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Right?
And
And we
then the
know-
other thing too, which has helped, I know it's helped me and I know it's helped a lot of breast cancer survivors, is that sometimes, and during that process, you need an angel, right? We all need that angel. But sometimes you are the angel.
Yes.
And so accept the help and the grace that people are given to you to survive, because they're making you stronger to help the next person that's coming along. And a story, a couple of years ago, I was mentoring a young woman who had a 5-year-old. She had breast cancer and she had to get a double mastectomy and her husband left and the whole 9 yards. And so held her hand to walk her through the process. And to come full circle, I'm taking a class on how to be a research ambassador, and she's my partner in that class. She happens to be in the same class, and started a Facebook group to educate her group of 35-year-olds who are now looking at what is this breast cancer thing. So just know that accept the help, because you will be called on to help the next person along the way.
One of the things that I said too when I was first diagnosed, I said, if God trusted me to be this, not to happen to go through it this time, it's not for me. I am being trusted to go through for someone who's coming or is about to come. So that's what I said too.
But I think, I think we all come out of it and go to work.
Yeah.
I mean, because we know that's the whole breasty love connection,
Not
that
everybody. We need more of those people for sure. And this show, like one of the things I love about Touch, Ricky, is that you're showing people how to do advocacy right where you are. You don't have to go to Capitol Hill. You don't have to know a whole bunch of things. You just got to get in tune with yourself and get empowered and get busy.
right.
And you find people everywhere. You're picking up people in Martha's Vineyard who are just, they're ready to run with it and pay this thing forward. And it's incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. I know, but Mo, I get at least 3 calls of a new breastie every week. Not every day, but almost every day. And And, you know, they're shocked that they got breast cancer. They don't know how it happened, and they really don't know what to do. And they say, well, you know, what exactly is triple negative breast cancer? What is, you know, HER2 breast cancer? Like, they don't, what does stage 3 mean? They don't know. And they come and say, well, the doctor said XYZ, what do you think? And so what they really want to hear is something from us, you know, and the doctor gives all the scientific advice, but they need that breasty hug and that love, and that they need to see us.
Yes. It's the
They need to
scars.
see us, look at us and say that you survived
It's
it.
going to be all right.
And it's
That's
gonna be
right.
all right.
Be all
right.
Keep
Right.
Robin, and it's gonna be all right. So that's what we do
Yeah.
every day,
Can't be what you can't see. So.
right?
Fact.
Right?
Wow. This
Wow,
is
you guys,
powerful.
we had no idea how this show was gonna turn out today, because we never do, right? We never do.
Great.
It's our first time kind of being live. I think we did one other live one, so we have to do more of it. Thank you so much.
Thank
You guys for showing up. Thank you so much, Dr. Brenda. We so appreciate you, and you have to come back on again.
Of
You know,
course, of
we'll get you
course.
on Zoom, and
We have to spread the word. I
Robin,
think
thank you for joining us today.
we should have been scrambling for space.
Right,
Because there's so
right.
many persons here who benefit from this.
Yeah, well, we'll-
Well,
Yeah.
Next year,
next year we'll do it.
Yeah.
we're gonna do a panel. Next year, we'll do a panel up there. Let's have an event.
Yeah, we do. We
I
will.
agree.
We will.
It's pretty safe here.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Obamas are here.
The Obamas are here. I know. We're gonna throw that in there, right? The Obamas are here. Yeah.
Tell my
Yes.
cousins, I say, hey,
The survivors are here, and the survivors are here.
that's right. They're everywhere. The survivors are everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. So thank you guys so much.
Oh, thank you.
This has been
And we do this
beautiful.
every week, Mo, every week.
It's true. We hope it's been relatable, reliable, and real. And that is what we set out to do every week, every Wednesday night for over a year, almost a year and a half now. So the doctor is in. We'll see you
Doctor
guys
is
next
in.
week.
See you next week. See you next week. Breasty
Oh,
love.
there it is.
Thank you, Robin. Love you, Robin.
Yeah, thank y'all.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.